Welcome back to Just a Cup on the Bleav Network, where we talk performance, mindset, and how to build a championship habits that show up when the lights are the brightest. I'm your host, Bryan Fetzer, and today we're joined with Matt Booth, the Dean of Athletics and Director of Strength and Conditioning at Canterbury School in Fort Myers, Florida. And one of the main things he does, one of the exciting things he does is he's an assistant trainer with Way of Champions. And we're going to be diving into what a real championship culture looks like on a random Tuesday, and how to kind of coach behaviors, before outcomes. And yes, we'll put our speed lens on the high performance world of overcomplicating the weight room and sports in general. So buckle up, Matt. I'm excited to get a chance to have you on. We've known each other for a long time, so I'm excited to dive into a little bit different realm than we might have done in Just a Cup before.
Yeah, man, Brian, I appreciate you having on. I was just gonna say the same thing, man. I feel like this has been a long time coming, my guy, with our experience with the American Track League, and here we are, man, having a conversation today.
Absolutely, and the thing is really fascinating. The more I've kind of learned about the Way of Champions and that whole network and that whole process, I think it's going to be incredibly valued to the listeners at all different kind of levels of sport and business. Really, I mean, you wear two hats. You got Canterbury with the Way of Champions. So paint a picture of what does a championship culture look like on an ordinary Tuesday, and not just in a championship kind of process or weekend.
Man, I love this question to start off, Brian. So, I mean, this has really been, for me, this experience has really been this past 4 years about developing culture, right? And I think for me, my eyes were really woken up when COVID hit, and we were all sent home during COVID. 2020, we didn't have sports for the first time ever, right? And I was getting hit up all the time from athletes, coaches, everyone like didn't know what to do because sports was gone. Right. So for me, that was like my great awakening. Like, we're not doing enough as coaches, man. Like, we have to find a bigger lens and make sure we're paying attention to the things that really matter. It's not about scoreboard. It's not about tactics. It's not about results. So I started to do this deep dive, man, into what culture is. And like you said, the question was asked, like, what is championship culture? For me, culture is really a behavior. How are we showing up every single day collectively as a group, right? And I always challenge our coaches, and I challenge our athletes, like, if I'm an outsider coming in and looking into your program, what am I going to see, right? And Bryan, I think what we do as coaches all the time, like, we talk about culture, we talk about values and the things we want to live by, but does it actually show up in the behaviors every single day? So we have to understand that culture is this living, breathing thing that is forming one way or another. And we have to be intentional on how we're shaping the behaviors.
That is such a true statement. So when you talk about Way of Champions, the origin story, how you get connected, you said the virtual event, you told me back in 2021. What were the kind of the first two moves that you made on campus that actually kind of stuck, and kind of how did that happen?
Yeah, so the cool thing, like I was telling you about this 2021 experience, man, I was searching for something. I was searching for a way. And ironically, I came across Way of Champions. And that is run by Dr. Jerry Lynch and John O'Sullivan. And Bryan, when I was on that call, man, the first guest speaker was Dave Dickerson, college basketball coach. And he said, nothing changes if nothing changes. Right there. That was my light bulb moment, man. Like, nothing changes, right?
Right.
And like, think about us as coaches. We get so stuck in routine and habits. And, a lot of times, like, I found myself doing this. I would recycle workouts. Oh, I did this last year. This time I'm going to do this workout. Yeah. But again, if nothing changes, that was my moment where it's like, I need to look at myself. What do I need to change to make sure we're bringing a better environment for our kids? So the first thing I did was we had to sit down with our athletic team, and it's like, we really got to kind of reshape our language. We got to develop a common language. Like, what is our vision as an athletic department? I don't think that was ever really spelled out, right? It was one of those things like, what was our North Star? What are we driving towards? What's that experience going to be like for our kids? So the first thing we did was we established the common language. We readdressed what our vision was. We talked about our mission. We talked about values, and we talked about our standards. So number one thing we did was we had to figure out who we were as a department, and then the steps to actually roll out a system.
I mean, that is always a tough thing. And I think so many coaches, administrators, they function in a world where they don't know where the North Star is. They don't know, it's, well, we've got to build champions, or we've got to win games, or we've got to do whatever. But you've got to really define it.
Yeah.
And put forth, what it is. One of the things I think of when I think of Fort Myers and I think about the West Coast of Florida, I live on the East Coast of Florida, and the West Coast has got crushed with hurricanes.
Yes.
In recent times. And, Hurricane Ian, I think it was Ian.
Yeah, it was Ian. Yeah.
Hit the community. When we talk about stress test, you talk about something that's wow.
Yeah.
How, what did your athletes and coaches do, kind of in that kind of series of crisis that kind of prevailed?
So that I love talking about this, Bryan, because again, we always talk about how sports are such a great life teacher, right? And you learn so many great lessons through it. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit before we talk about Hurricane Ian. Like when we started to roll out Way of Champions, I was trying to be like super strategic as far as the teams we wanted to work with. And because there are certain teams like that really needed to find some guidance. So the first team I started to work with was our girls volleyball team. And prior to that, Bryan, like we had all the talent in the world, right? Super talented team. But the one thing that was lacking, man, was they didn't bond at all. There was no connection. There was no bonding. And we know, like when we're working with our female athletes, there's the adage where you say you have to bond first before you go to battle. That was something that was missing in that culture. So one of the things that we worked on with Way of Champions and implementing this was we introduced this idea of the circle. And the circle is such an important element of Way of Champions. It's a critical kind of symbol for us on our campus. And the reason being is, Bryan, if you look at a circle, is there anyone in the front or the back when you're in a circle?
No,
we're what?
Right. It's all together. It's one unit.
We're standing side by side, right? And I think that was the biggest thing the message we were trying to get to our girls and to our teams is we're always going to go further together. We have to link arms. We have to stand side by side, right? And I create this whole image, man. Like I get our girls, like we look into the center of the circle and I say, you know what lives in the center of this circle? This is where our vision lives. This is where our mission lives. This is where our values are, and this is where our standards are. And the only way people can penetrate our circle is if we allow them to. So when we link arms, what we're doing is we're protecting our circle. So we created this mantra where every day we talked about protect the circle. What does that mean to us? And we define what it meant to protect our circle, right? So now we have a higher purpose, man. Like we're bonding together. We're forming this circle. And again, it's us collectively as a group standing side by side. Now, why is this important going into a crisis? Well, I don't know if our listeners are very familiar with Hurricane Ian. So Hurricane Ian was the equivalent of a 6-hour tornado. It was absolutely brutal. It just wouldn't end. I remember I put my wife and my son in a safe room, and I just policed my house the whole time. Like our French doors almost blew in. I was running with a couch, throwing that up against the door. It was a super stressful. I've never been through anything like that. But Bryan, the crazy thing is we had 3 members of our volleyball team completely lost their home. A helicopter had to come rescue one of them, right? And where was their safe place, you think?
Their team I'm gonna guess their teammates, that togetherness they could build off of.
Right. So what's the first thing we did, Bryan? As soon as we were able to get around Fort Myers, we came back to our gym and we came back in our circle. right? And that is what brought us back together. And there's a great Chinese proverb, Bryan, and I got this from Dr. Jerry Lynch, my mentor. He said, Matt, you have such a great opportunity, because the proverb says a crisis is a danger riding in on a dangerous wind.
Right.
Think about it, like, and that's what we just went through. We just had a dangerous wind, but that was our opportunity. So what we did was we took it a step forward, a step further, and we introduced the circle to our entire school. So when we got back after 2 weeks, man, like, I talked to our head of school. I said, listen, I want to introduce this whole concept of protecting our circle. Let's get our whole school together. So literally, Bryan, there's a cool picture of our whole school coming back after 2 weeks being away from each other. We're in our circle, and we just talked about this is how we're going to rise together as a community. So again, using sports as a way to lift us up to a higher level. It's like, this is our opportunity to build back even better. And what's crazy, Bryan, I mean, it's like a Hollywood story. That team rallies around each other. We had not won a district championship in 13 years. Prior to that, those girls were making TikTok videos about themselves and just kind of like destroying themselves on the inside. But we go through this huge crisis, and we found the opportunity. We rose together, and they won the district championship for the first time in 13 years.
The initial part, I'm going to go back to the initial before when you're just starting, because I think this is important. What was the buy-in? What was the first kind of thoughts of the kids? I mean, was there a ton of pushback, or was it open-minded?
See, this is what I found introducing this is, and Jerry Lynch talks about this all the time, and I didn't realize until I went through it, but people crave this, because what Way of Champions is, and when you're building culture, is we're creating an environment where everyone feels like they're seen, they're heard, they're valued, and they belong, right? So the second we started rolling this stuff out, it's like for the first time ever, we've built an intentional space where our kids, their voices were heard, right? They were able to take ownership more of the language they wanted to create. So we turned this more into a collaboration. So for the first time ever, we got to have these hard conversations. We built intentional time and space to work together as a team. So what I found, man, is like people crave this. It's just for us as coaches finding the time to build the intentional space to actually have these conversations and not just do it one time and check the box and say, all right, let's go on with our season.
Has it kind of transcended from other sports then? I mean, after the volleyball kind of got started, what was kind of the buy-in, or what kind of the next kind of steps?
So that was the big thing. So again, trying to be strategic. We worked with our volleyball team. And again, I mean, we're not looking at just results, but they did win a district championship. People start to notice, like, sure. And they knew the narrative before, like, wow, these girls seem super connected. What's going on with the volleyball team? So then we started to work with our men's soccer program. So the same thing, we started to build in the intentional space. We started to build in the language. We were trying to be super intentional as far as making sure the behaviors are showing up every day. Our soccer team that year goes on and becomes the state runner-up. So then baseball jumps down. Now, the cool thing about our baseball team is our athletic director is also our head baseball coach. So this is a no-brainer, Bryan. Like, if we get the AD all in, like, we're going to get all our programs kind of involved. Baseball that year goes 25-5. So now we have our evidence on campus. So what we did the next year is we started to slowly introduce this new system to all of our teams. And so what I did is I sat down with our coaches, I sat down with our admin team, and we were super strategic as far as, being in a private school, we can kind of create our schedule. So we kind of relooked at our schedule, and we created an A and B lunch. So if I want to meet with teams, I'll say, hey, baseball, go to A lunch, come meet with me, and we'll do a 25-minute meeting during B lunch. So we're not taking any time away from practice. We're building everything within our system. But now we're starting to have like super intentional conversations about leadership, culture, mental performance. Then you take that stuff from the classroom, and then we actually apply it in our daily practices.
We're going to take a quick break and then come back, and we're going to dive into a little bit more on the administration coaching side of things and kind of talk through kind of the current trends that there are right now in coaching. This episode of Just a Cup is brought to you by Iron Faith Nutrition. Simple, honest formulas that support real-world performance, from curcumazyme for recovery to Biozyme Pro Blend for gut energy. Hey, build a smarter daily stack with Iron Faith Nutrition. You can get it at ironfaithnutrition.com. And don't forget to subscribe on Bleav and the YouTube channel. Never miss a cup. We're back with Matt Booth, and we're talking about we've been talking about the way of champions. We're going to keep talking about that. But in the high school space right now, I mean, it seems like it seems like sports in general are like on this roller coaster ride of changes. What are you seeing from a trend standpoint at the high school level? Just dealing with athletes.
How much time do we have, Bryan?
and that's why I said before we got on, this is
right.
a big topic, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, Bryan, just think about all the changes right now, and the early specialization and the professionalization of youth sports. I mean, in Florida, I know we both live in Florida. NIL has been passed and approved here at the high school level, so. This is all new stuff that none of us have gone through. Players, coaches, parents, right? So it's just trying to navigate this whole new system. And again, for us as coaches, I think the most important thing is I always hear it, Bryan, like, oh, kids these days, ... And then it's always like this negative thing, man. But it's like, we have to be willing to adapt as coaches too, and try to figure out, again, what's best for the kids. Right, we see all with the early specialization, like we see the burnout happening more and more. We see the issues in mental health. I mean, I just saw on social media yesterday about the Penn State volleyball player. They just won the national championship last year, and now she's taking the year off to get her mental health back in order. Right, so and I think a lot of that is the pressure our kids are feeling now. I mean, parents are signing them up at 9, 8 years old to have all these private coaches and to specialize and do all these things. And now we see overuse injuries popping up here and there. But again, for me, it's trying to get back to what sports is all about and making sure at the high school level, we're just creating environments where our kids can kind of discover just like the best version of themselves beyond being an athlete. And the crazy thing, Bryan, is if you look at all this early specialization, all these things going on, the percentage of kids still going on to college hasn't changed at all. It's still 3 to 6% are going on to college. And then there's like 1% goes on to play professional. And so I think it's just getting that education out there, man, and bringing more awareness to our players, to our coaches, to our parents, that they understand to make sure we're using sports the right way, where we're teaching the life lessons, we're not getting burnt out early, or we don't feel like we're doing it just because it's mom or dad's dreams. Like we're doing it for the right reasons, and we're creating environments where all our kids can thrive. But that's been the hard thing navigating as coaches.
Yeah, when you start hearing, I mean, I have so many friends that their kids play quote unquote travel ball. Yeah, and it doesn't matter what sport it is. Yeah, and it's like, well, are they getting way too much because they're playing their whole high school season? And then they're doing all this travel ball stuff in addition to it, whether it's in season. I know my sister, my nephews. I mean, they play hockey during the regular season, but they also play travel hockey. Yeah, it doesn't ever seem like it ends. Are you seeing more injuries for the kids in high school than maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it might be?
Yeah, honestly, I've seen injuries go up a lot, like especially like ACLs. Like this is ACLs, Tommy John, and I think what they're missing, Bryan, is there's no real off season, right? And my other job is I'm a strength and conditioning coach, so there's really no time for these kids because all they do is play. They're traveling all over the place. I know we have some of our baseball guys are like, oh, I'm in Georgia this week, or I'm in Tennessee this week. Oh, I'm back in Florida. It's like, well, when do we build in time and space to one, recover mentally and physically, and then two, actually kind of work on some of our weak points, or make sure we're developing the right type of strength and power so our kids can handle a whole season. But with all these extra games and all these extra layers, I feel like that's one thing that we're missing now in the high school sports.
Are a lot of the kids now, they're having their own personal like strength coaches and all those kind of things. I mean, I know that can be a dicey kind of situation as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, like, I understand that this is going on. So, again, looking at being adaptable as a coach, what I try to do, man, is just have more open line of communication. Right. And I think that's the biggest thing is we get so busy as coaches. We're so worried about all the things that we have to do. And a lot of times we forget, like, just connecting with our kids. Like, every coach I've ever talked to, Bryan, they always said, what's the one thing you wish you did more of? And they all say to a T, like, I wish I spent more time having one-on-one conversations. Right. So that's my big thing is, like, if you're going to see another strength coach, that's fine. But I want to have more one-on-one conversations to make sure I'm not doubling up and doing extra stuff in the weight room that they've already done. And two, I just want to have that time to connect with the kid on a deeper level, meet them where they're at, not where I expect them to be, and just make sure we're building the right program for him when he's with me. Right. If he's doing stuff on the outside, I just want to make sure I'm spending the time. I'm not going to get mad at the kid. I'm not going to be like, no, you need to train with me. I mean, this is just the times we're in right now. So we have to adapt. So spend some time and connect with your kids and see what they're doing.
Well, I mean, ego can play so much into it. You see coaches, they can't really check the ego at the door.
Yeah.
And they're, well, this is my weight room. So we're going to do exactly what I want to do, regardless of the fact that the kid just worked out 3 days in a row and did things. You see that, unfortunately, you see it a lot with coaches just in general.
And then think about this, Bryan. Like, think about how much information our kids have too now. Like, they can jump on their phone, right? They get on their phone. They can YouTube any video. They can get on TikTok. They see all this stuff going on. So they have so much access to information. The problem that I run into, I mean, they're a high school athlete, so they don't know which information is good or bad, but they have information, right?
Right.
So for us as coaches, I think now with Gen Z and Gen Alpha athletes, we really need to make sure we're explaining the why. Why are we doing this? And understanding how that is going to benefit them. Because our kids are going to walk in our weight room. They're going to look at the workout and be like, well, I seen this other guy on TikTok do it this way. Why are we doing it this way? So again, it's us as coaches meeting our kids where they're at, right? And understanding, like, I have to explain things a little bit further with this generation, give them the why, because they have all this access to information. Again, they don't know what is good or bad, but they have information.
Have you found, going back to Way of Champions, once you guys implemented that into the school at Canterbury, has the dialogue or the openness of the athletes become a little bit better in the weight room and with the coaches?
100%, because I think what we did was, again, it was about this whole idea of being intentional and giving our kids and giving our coaches time and space to have this conversation. And a lot of times, like you were saying, a lot of times when we grew up, man, as coaches, it was my way or the highway.
Oh, absolutely.
The command and demand. That style doesn't really work anymore, right? So when you're looking at Way of Champions is all about connecting, right? Making sure everyone feels like they're relevant, important, valued, empowered, respected, right? Can you imagine if you felt like that, Bryan? You would run through the wall for me, right?
Absolutely.
But how do we do that? How do we build that trust? We have to have time and space to have these conversations. But more importantly, we have to give our kids more ownership of the story, right? And understand, like, this is their story. Us as coaches, man, I've always been that firm believer. Like, we are the guide, right? I'm not the general. I'm just the guide. This is not my story. This is your story. But if this is your story, I have to be willing as the coach to give you a little bit more ownership and accountability in your own personal story.
Is it different? You think it's a little different? I mean, there's been so much movement towards private schools.
Yeah.
From a standpoint of, parents moving their kids from big public schools to smaller private schools, the impact of that and the opportunity to have more dialogue or kind of more of a concise relationship per se. That's it might be the best thing. Do you find that is true, that at some of the smaller schools, the private schools, you can build those relationships a little bit quicker or easier?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, being in a smaller school setting, it is easier for us. And it's funny, you mentioned the word relationship. And one of the greatest stories I heard from Steve Kerr. And so everyone knows Steve Kerr, legendary Golden State Warriors coach.
Absolutely.
And so Steve took over the Golden State Warriors. Steve had never coached before in his life, right? And so everyone thought this was a huge gamble bringing in Steve Kerr. And obviously, we know the story. Steve goes on and wins the NBA championship. The question asked to Steve was, "Hey, Steve, what was the most important game you won?" And everyone thought it was going to be like Game 5 against the Caps. Like we were down and we won Game 5. No, Steve said the most important game I won was the relationship game. Being able to connect with everyone on his team. Now, is it difficult at times in a larger setting? Yes. But it's more, I think it's more critical that we spend that time. Like if we don't do it, we're missing out on a huge opportunity to build that relationship, build that connection, because those players are going to want to play for you even more when you build that relationship.
That's such a true statement. I wish I would have understood that concept.
Yeah.
A lot earlier in my coaching career when I was coaching. Because I think that's something that I'd be the first one to admit I did not do a very good job of that.
Yeah.
With the entire team. I did it with certain individuals.
Yeah.
And being frank, there's certain individuals who are typically the best kids in the team.
Yep.
They weren't the worst or the one that didn't produce as much. It was always the top kids because you kind of gravitate towards that naturally as a coach because that's who you're counting on to score your points. That's the one that you're counting on to produce. So the relationship piece is definitely something I wish I would have done a better job.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, that's why the players love playing for Steve Kerr, because Steve was that bench player. So Steve understands what it feels like to be number 14, number 15. Right. And one thing we teach, Bryan, like when we're trying to build more connection, and this comes through the Way of Champions, is we use what we call the rule of one. So the rule of one is, let's say you have this, you're looking at your roster. All we challenge our coaches to do is just pick one athlete, send one message every single day. So you just pick one athlete, you send one message, and I try to be strategic. I'll send my message at like 8:00 at night. Here's little Johnny sitting at home, and he gets a message from Coach Booth. Hey, I saw you push yourself out of your comfort zone today. What do you think Johnny's going to do the next day at practice?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he's going to show. He's right. Coach Booth cares for me. Like he noticed me. He saw me. Absolutely. Right. So again, if you have these bigger rosters, like we do like a dot system. Like if we have a big roster, let's say your football team, we use like a simple dot system. So we kind of divide the rosters up. Every coach takes like 10 athletes. And when you use that rule of one, just put a dot next to their name. So by the end of the week, every athlete should have a dot. If you miss someone, you'd be like, okay, hey, we missed Sam. Let's make sure we connect with Sam.
That's a really good idea. That's a super way not to miss something. Right. Is about the easiest way to kind of put it, really.
And the best thing about it, well, one, it takes 30 seconds. But most of the times when I send the message, man, and I get a message back, I feel better as the coach. Like, damn, I feel good. Just seeing that response, like, thank you, coach, for checking in.
And that response is usually, it's heartfelt because it's not a, situation that's, obligated, because some of the kids probably don't send anything back.
Yeah, there's that too. But again, they all have their phone. They got the message.
Of course.
And so again, it's just the intentionality, right? The intentionality of making sure we're winning that relationship game.
All right, we're gonna wrap up, and I always laugh, and I call it a rapid fire wrap up, but it's usually not real rapid fire because some of the questions I think take a little bit of insight and little thought process. So we're ready. Hit you with 5 questions here.
Okay.
First one: favorite workout to build that quote unquote competitive grit?
Man, okay, so I'm gonna give you 2.
Okay.
First one on the track, and I got this, and you know him, Paul Souza, my old coach.
Oh, yeah.
Continuous 150s critical zone workout where, and all of our track kids know, but it's just we blast through a 150, jog 50, back into 150. That's like my go-to. Like that's gonna separate those ones that really want it. And then
Yes.
the other one in the weight room, it's 30 on, 30 off. So we'll just rep as many reps as we can in 30. We're just going until the buzzer goes. So we go 30 on, 30 off. Again, just a test of, we make it a big competition in the weight room.
All right, next one. Competition day coffee order. Be honest with this. Like you're coaching it in. Is there a coffee order you do?
For me, like the drink coffee?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to shock the listeners. I am a spaz, and you can probably guess I'm very high energy. I don't drink coffee.
Wow.
Yeah. I got a full 5 hours of sleep last night. I'm ready to go.
That's awesome. That is fantastic. Yeah. I drink 1 cup a day, but I got to have a cup a day, and it's more my relaxing coffee as a.
Yeah, I think my wife would divorce me if I had coffee. It would be out of control.
All right. One Way of Champions book, article, podcast that every high school coach should consume.
For high school, for book, I would say The Champion Teammate. It's a great book that short chapters that actually has lessons built into it. So again, when we're talking about, we want to build leadership, we want to build mental performance. A lot of times coaches, they want the how. In this book, I mean, there's so many great lessons as far as leadership, culture, and mental performance. All the questions are built into you. So we use it actually for our leadership academy. That's kind of our working book read.
It's good. It's phenomenal. Is there a podcast or something like that as well?
So, I mean, with Way of Champions, I saw that question. I was like, man, I can't just give you one, but there's so many great ones. Like, Steve Kerr, if you want a great one about culture, David Brandt, legendary soccer coach. The book Messiah Method was written about him, but David Brandt about culture. I love the episode with Jonah Oliver. So Jonah Oliver is an Australian sports psychologist. That is a great one. Then, of course, Anson Dorrance. Any Anson Dorrance podcast on Way of Champions, those are my go-to.
Awesome. Okay. Most underrated daily habit you demand from a team?
I think the most underrated is getting up and making your bed in the morning.
Wow. Why?
And it's just teaching discipline. If you can get up, make your bed in the morning, you're starting your day off right.
That is extremely valid. That gets things. It's a habit.
Yeah.
And teaching habits are not always the easiest thing, especially nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. We know it takes 21 days to build a habit. So it's one of those things that we have to work at.
Absolutely. Last question. Advice for a first-year high school coach.
Advice, know who you are.
What do you mean by that?
So by that, I mean, a lot of times we coach the way we were coached. So when I challenge young coaches, I always say leadership's not about us, but it starts with us. You have to have self-awareness of who you are as a coach. So before you can lead others, you have to know how to lead yourself. So know who you are.
That's massive advice. That's great life advice, I think, for anybody.
It was pretty good for a rapid fire question here, Bryan. We're on a roll today.
Absolutely. Matt, man, I appreciate you. Great insights on building behaviors. Like I said, that win on Tuesday that pay off on Saturday. If you enjoyed this episode or the show, follow, subscribe, do all those kind of things everybody tells you about every time. YouTube, Bleav, you can get us anywhere. There's podcasts, really anywhere, Apple, Spotify, we get them from all over. We're in 54 countries right now. So lots of people listening. We appreciate it. A big thanks to Iron Faith Nutrition for powering the show. I'm Bryan Fetzer, and we appreciate Matt Booth joining us. Remember, performance is simple, but it's just not very easy. See you the next time. Have a great one, and God bless everybody.